Hello, beautiful stars, and thanks so much for tuning in. I am Astar, and welcome to 𝑓. So, in this video, we are gonna be channeling the nature of Set. Now, in the ancient Egyptian religion, which is Kemetic Spirituality, or also known as Netarianism, there is only one supreme source. That's the source creator, the source of all that is. And that one source is known under many different names, but most commonly it's known under the name of NETER or NETER. And this one NETER is then splitting or emanating into many different NETERU. So when we talk about the gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, these are actually emanations or aspects of the one source creator. So the ancient Egyptian religion is actually monotheistic because the Egyptian believed in one source, in one God, one divine supreme being that again is known as NETER. And I personally believe it is very, very important to have an understanding of all the natures, because all these natures, they actually represent a nature within ourselves. So when we learn about the gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, we're actually learning about not only aspects of ourselves, but also energies, like we are getting to know the different aspects of source creator on a deeper level, and we are recognizing that aspect of source creator within ourselves. So it not only helps us to get to know ourselves, but also to get to know about the mysteries of the universe, and they're helping us get to know source on a deeper level. So again, today we are talking about Set, which is nothing to be afraid of because many people connect Set with the devil or demonic energies, which is not entirely false in that sense, but the nature of Set represents the lower nature of every human being. So the lower nature, this is the ego. But we are also talking about the physical realm. So we as human beings with our ego in our physical body, this is actually the nature of Set. So this is our ego self. This is again our physical self. This is everything that has to do with the desert. So in ancient Egypt, we are talking about the upper Egypt and the lower Egypt. And this is actually the two lands, the higher nature and the lower nature of every human being, where lower Egypt corresponds to the lower nature of every human being. And this again is the nature of Set, our physical body and our ego that helps us navigate the physical realm. Now when we look at Upper Egypt, that's actually corresponding to our higher nature or our spiritual self. This resonates very much with Osiris, who is actually wearing the white crown, and the white crown, that's the crown of Upper Egypt. Whereas the crown of Lower Egypt, that's the red crown. And the name of the red crown is Deshret or Deshret, which is actually the ancient Kemetic name for the color red. But this is very interesting because actually the word desert comes from the Kemetic word Deshret, which is again the word for the color red. So the lower nature of every human being, that is connected to the desert. And again, the desert is the visible realm. This is the physical realm. This is the realm where everything is visible and everything can be perceived with our senses. And our ego, that's the instrument that allows us to perceive the sensual objects in in the visible realm, in the physical realm, in the desert basically. But this is where the story of the battle between Horus and Set comes in. Because this is actually the battle between the lower nature of every human being and the higher nature of every human being. And again, if we look at the higher nature of every human being, this is Horus. This is the divine will, or also our higher self. So if ourselves, if our character and our personality is governed by the nature of Set, when we are operating from a lower vibrational expression, then the nature of Set is dominant in our energy. So in this case, when the nature of Set is dominant within our personality and our character, then we are looking at things only from the materialistic side of things. So we are only looking at the desert. And the desert again is the visible physical realm. So we are focusing only on the physical. And this is where we start to become materialistic, or we are only aspiring sensual pleasures. So this has to do with everything that is ego-driven, everything that is materialistic. And now what do we do to bring the balance back? In order to have a balance between Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt, we are wanting to invite the wisdom of Osiris. And the wisdom of Osiris, again, Osiris is wearing the white crown. This is the Hedjet crown. And the Hedjet crown is the symbol of being the king of the underworld, being a master of the spirit realm. So if we are wearing the white crown, it means that we have mastered our higher nature. It means that we have embodied our higher self by mastering the invisible spirit realm. And now this is where the story becomes even more interesting, because the ancient Egyptian name for Egypt is actually Kem. And the word Kem means black. So Kem is actually the black land. But many people think that the black land is called like this because of the fertile soil of the Nile Delta, which is not true, because actually the word black, the word Kem, refers to the black spirit world, the black land, the invisible world, the upper world. This is the higher world that we cannot see. This is actually the world we enter when we close our eyes. So when our eyes are closed, when we are in meditation or in dreams, then we are entering the black land. So it's called black because it is invisible. And all the arts of Egypt, all the mysteries and everything that has to do with magic, that actually comes from the black land. But it doesn't come from the black land as Egypt, it comes from the spirit world. So all the ancient mysteries of Heka and magic, all of this comes from the other side of the veil. And again, if we are learning to master the black land, if we are learning about the mysteries of magic, if we are learning to navigate the black land, then we are crowned with the white crown. And then it means that we are embodying the nature of Osiris. And the nature of Osiris, that's the nature of eternity. That's the nature of being an eternal soul. Having an experience in the realm of creation as well, but it's actually this untouched part of the soul that is eternal, that cannot be changed. So actually the story of the dismemberment of Osiris, there is the story where Set, who is the brother of Osiris, is cutting the body of Osiris in 14 pieces. And this is how Set then tries to almost make the humans forget about their eternal nature. This is what the story is talking about. So it's actually the ego trying to hide the aspects of our soul, or trying to fragmentalize and compartmentalize our being so that everything is scattered. And again, if we look at the nature of Set, that's the nature actually that separates, that scatters and creates chaos again. It's actually the active chaos of creation. So it brings in separation and scattering in order to create confusion and illusion. But if we are starting the work of remembering our past lifetimes, if we reconnect with our spiritual self, if we gather the scattered pieces of Osiris with the wisdom of Isis, this is what then helps us remember our eternal nature. So Isis, that's actually the wisdom of the universe. Isis is the intuitional wisdom that actually comes from the Black Land, from the other side of the veil. And it is trickling into the physical world so that we can remember our spiritual nature. And this is what the nature of Isis is about. So Isis again is intuitional wisdom from the spirit world that helps us reconnect with our eternal essence. And this eternal essence, that's Osiris. So what the ego does, what the nature of Set does, is actually separating the parts of ourselves, disintegrating our being, so that we forget the eternal nature of our being, which is Osiris, so that we forget that we are our higher self, basically. And now when we talk about the battle between Horus and Set, this is actually the battle between the lower self and the higher self. This is the battle between looking at the world through the eyes of the ego or through the materialistic viewpoint, and looking at the world through the eyes of a bird, actually, the bird perspective. That's why Horus is the falcon, because Horus has the perspective of both lands. Horus is able to remember that he is the son of Osiris. And again, Osiris being the king of the Black Land, being the master of the invisible spirit world, this is actually our higher self that exists in a higher realm, in a higher dimension. That's why Osiris is the king of the Black Land, because this is our higher self, this is the eternal nature of our soul, the eternal aspect of our soul. Once Horus remembers that he is the son of Osiris, he remembers that actually he is Osiris. Because then in the story, once Isis is regathering the fragments of Osiris, remembering the parts of our soul, remembering past lifetimes, reactivating our multidimensional self through the wisdom of Isis, then Horus is being created as a result. And Horus, that's the awakened Christ. That's the rebirth of Osiris, actually. And this is very much where also the story of Christ comes from. So the story of the angel and the devil, of Satan and Christ, this is actually talking about the lower nature and the higher nature of every human being. And again, through the wisdom of Isis that is experienced, through our experience in the realm of creation, as well as the information that comes from the other side of the veil, we are regathering and remembering the fragments of Osiris that have been scattered by Set. And once these aspects have been brought together into one, reintegrated, once the lower aspect has married the higher aspect, this is where we talk about Sema Taui, which is the union of the lower self and the higher self, the union between Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. So when we are able to understand this, then we are actually able to understand that evil as such doesn't really exist. I don't deny that there are things that we might perceive as evil in this world. Absolutely. A lot of it, actually. But all of this is still grounded in love. All of this still comes from Source Creator. And when we are able to see the light in this darkness, then it's actually Horus winning the battle against Set. Because the battle of Set and Horus, the battle of the lower self and the higher self, is actually a battle of the ego trying to make Horus, the higher self, believe in the illusion of separation. So Set tries everything in his power to make Horus believe that matter is real and that evil exists. And he throws evil at him so many times, trying to perpetuate fear or trying to create separation. But as soon as Horus sees the love in everything, as soon as Horus understands that even the darkness and even the illusion comes from Source Creator and is actually an aspect of Source Creator and is actually just a reflection of my own shadow, then Horus is winning, because Horus is then cleaning his inner eye, and through the wisdom of Isis and the wisdom of Thoth, the one eye of Horus is being restored, is being given back to Horus, so that Horus can awaken his consciousness. And this is the activation of Christ consciousness, where Horus remembers that he is the son of Osiris. But Horus remembers that he is Osiris, that he is an eternal soul, while he is still present in the Red Land. And that's why Horus is actually wearing the double crown. This is the Pshent crown. And this is the crown that is both the upper crown, the white crown of the Black Land, of our higher nature, and it's also the lower crown, the red crown of the desert, representing our lower nature. So when the white crown and the red crown combine, then the Pshent crown is created, and this is what allows Horus to master both realms, by again understanding or remembering the nature of Osiris while still being present in the physical realm. And this again is the practice of Sema Taui. So the ancient Egyptian yoga, actually yoga comes not only from India, but it is actually a tradition that goes much deeper, and it's much older than only the Indian tradition. Because again, if we go back to the Atlantean wisdom teachings that originate much, much, much earlier, even 1,000, 20,000, 30,000 years ago, this is where the practice of yoga was brought to earth from the stars. So the wisdom of yoga is actually the wisdom that helps us reconnect with our higher self, reconnect with our higher nature. And again, in ancient Egypt, the practice of yoga was known under the name of Sema Taui, or also Sema NETERU Set. So Sema means the unification, the reunification, the reuniting of Horus and Set. And Horus, again, the higher nature, Set, the lower nature. And when they merge, when they meet, when the unification of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt takes place, as Horus is wearing the double crown, that means that then Set is working on behalf of Horus. Because we have to understand that the ego, the nature of Set, cannot be destroyed. Because it is not possible to live in this physical realm without an ego. Because if our ego would die completely, then our physical body would die, and we would then go back to the invisible Black Land on the other side of the veil. But since we are still present in a physical body, we still have an ego. So Set is never fully defeated. We can only subdue or lower the influence of Set in our life. But Set will always be there, because again we have to have an ego in order to navigate this earth plane. Since there is illusion, since there is the Maya, we have to have a vessel in order to navigate this illusion. But again, if this illusion, or if the lower aspects or the lower nature of ourselves is working on behalf of the higher selves, if our actions are grounded in love, then we are masters of this physical realm. And then it really is about the integration of our shadow in a healthy way. There is nothing wrong with having an ego, but we just don't want to be controlled by the ego or limited by the ego. So when we learn to integrate the ego in a healthy way, this is where we are a fully integrated being, when we are mastering not only the spiritual realm but also the physical realm. So now I'm actually really curious what the nature of Set has to tell us about a healthy ego. What are the traits and personality? What are the personality traits of a healthy ego? Or how can we integrate our shadow in a healthy way? How can we create Sema Taui? How can we unite Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt? How can we create more balance in our life? And this one, let's see. So we have the 9 of Pentacles. We have the 8 of Pentacles. Okay. The message is coming through. Oh, okay, I love it. I love the synchronicities. We have Horus in the middle, right in alignment with Osiris. That's very beautiful. Then we have the Queen of Swords and the 3 of Pentacles. Okay, that's very beautiful, because the first message coming through is actually, in order to have a healthy ego, in order to integrate our ego in a healthy way, we need to integrate our higher self in a healthy way. Because otherwise the ego percentage of our being is too much, it's too unbalanced. So if there is only ego, then we are completely neglecting our higher self and our spiritual nature. Then we cannot really ascend to the higher realms, or we only look at the physical realm and then we are too materialistic or too egoistic. And then also, if we are too spiritual, if we only see ourselves as a higher being, if we only see ourselves as being a spiritual being, then we cannot apply ourselves in this physical realm, and we almost detach ourselves from the physical realm. And this is then where yogis, for example, they don't need to eat anymore, because their essence is almost more spiritual than physical. And this is the reason why so many yogis and rishis, they are able to meditate for years and years without ever ingesting physical food. So this is also good for those who want to go that way. But if we really want to be balanced in both aspects, we are needing to increase then either one of the other. So again, if we are too materialistic, we are wanting to bring in spiritual practices that help us open up to the invisible spirit realm, to the black land, to the mysteries of the darkness, of the invisible. But then, if we are too spiritual and too much in our higher nature, then we are wanting to bring in practices that ground us into our physical nature and into our physical vessel actually. But again, not acting from the ego, always acting from love basically, knowing that everything is grounded in love actually. And once we start with that, if this is our center, let's say, if our center is Osiris, and this is actually very beautiful because the white crown, that's Hedjet, and that's actually, it's talking about the raising of the jet. This is the raising of the axis mundi, the jet pillar. This is the axis that connects us with source basically. The jet, the axis mundi, the center of the universe, is the line, the light line that connects the individual soul with the supreme soul. But this ray of light, this connection, this Tet pillar is only, it's like the emanation of source. It's like the emanation of net into nature. It's the emanation of the divine unity into multiplicity. But again, this multiplicity, this perceived separation, that is actually the nature of Set. So without Set, without the nature of Set, nothing in creation would be perceivable, because nothing in creation would exist without separation. So Set brings in the illusion of separation so that we see ourselves as separate individual entity, so that we can have an experience and then reconnect back with our eternal aspect. And again, if we do that while we are here on earth in a physical vessel, then we are Horus wearing the two crowns, because then it means we have integrated our ego in a healthy way and integrated our higher self in a healthy way while still being here on earth. And this is what makes us super strong. This is what helps us kill the ego, let's say, or subdue the ego and turn into the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords, she is speaking her truth. She is also up in the clouds. So this is talking about having a higher perspective and not allowing the ego to limit us in any way. And we do that actually by understanding that everything that Set or the ego is trying to make us do is separating, or finding reasons why we are separated from Source or separate from each other, or actually perpetuating fear so that we believe in the illusion, because fear creates separation, and separation is that which doesn't allow us to reunify. So that's why the nature of Set is creating illusion, which creates chaos and confusion, so that our true nature is almost being clouded. But in order to remember our true nature, we are wanting to subdue the ego and actually channel the spiritual energies from the lower centers into the higher centers. Because the nature of Set actually is the nature which tries to prevent the sexual energy to flow to the higher centers. So when it is being stored in the lower centers or discharged in the lower centers, this is where we use then the sexual energy for sexual pleasure only. Or when we use our sexual energy, which is our creative energy, our spiritual energy, the creative life force energy, if we use it for only material pleasures, like to create money or to, again, indulge in sensual desires, or if we focus all of our energy only on the lower expression of that energy, then this will always keep us in the cycle of reincarnation, because we will keep coming back to the physical realm in order to satisfy these desires. So the way Set is actually keeping us stuck in the physical realm, in the cycle of reincarnation, is by making us desire physical things. So as long as we have the desire for physical pleasure, for food or sexual sensual pleasure, or touching art, or like caressing, everything that has to do with physical, as soon as there is the desire to experience the physical realm, we will always come back into the physical realm. And this is very much how Set is trying to keep the status quo. Set is then trying to perpetuate this separation, let's say. But if in our lifetime we are completely moving away from pursuing material pleasures or material desire to shifting our focus and aspiring spiritual enlightenment instead, when we are focusing on pursuing spiritual enlightenment while we are in a physical vessel, this is then where we increase the nature of Horus and Osiris within our character. And the more the nature of Osiris and Horus predominate in our character, the more the nature of Set is almost going in the background. Again, it cannot be completely eradicated, because otherwise we would physically die. Like if the ego is away completely, then we merge back with the Supreme Soul, and there is no individual consciousness in that sense. But again, the nature of Set is the illusion of individuality, the illusion of separation. So when we are able to look behind the veil of illusion, when we are able to channel our sexual, sacred, spiritual energy from the lower centers to the higher centers, instead of pursuing worldly pleasures. So if we shift our focus from pursuing materialistic worldly pleasures to pursuing spiritual enlightenment, then the ego is subdued, the energy or the personality, the presence of Horus is being underlined. And again, if we then fully commit to activating our entire being, healing our multidimensional self, regathering all the aspects of Osiris through the wisdom of Isis, then when we bring in Thoth and all the other deities, when we learn about all the other aspects of who we are, the more we awaken, the more we add new layers to our personality, the more we see the multidimensionality of our being, instead of only looking at life through the lens of Set. And this is very much what the collective is going through since many, many eons. We have collectively looked at the life or at the world through the eyes of the ego, because the energy of Set was very present in the collective consciousness since the fall of Atlantis, where this Setian energy, this satanic energy, actually demonic energies, they are more present. But right now, collectively, we are bringing back the nature of Horus, or we are remembering that we are Horus. And this is very much the dawning of the new age. This is the age of Aquarius. And this is actually very much talking about Aquarius, because I'm being made to feel, yes, the energy of the stars, the energy of networking, everything binding things together, reuniting things together. And this is what Horus does with the help of Isis. So the more wisdom we acquire about the nature of reality, the nature of our soul, the nature of nature, once we learn about the different aspects of the one Neter that then divides or splits itself in all these different emanations, the more we are able to master this realm, and then we are truly magicians, then we are truly masters, because we're able to see the spiritual essence of all that is. And this is actually in the Hebrew language, it's the letter Shin, which is the letter for spirit. So it's about seeing the spiritual essence in all, while still being in a physical vessel. And it is possible to bring both together. Again, this is the practice of Sema Taui, the practice of Sema NETERU SET, the unification of Horus and Set. And this is actually all the practice of yoga. So all the practices, the yogic practices of ancient Egypt, they were actually designed to subdue the lower nature and to rise to the higher nature. They have been designed to clear the subconscious patterns that keep us stuck in the lower expression, and to heal and activate our being so that we can embody more of our higher self. This is the union between the lower Egypt and upper Egypt, the union between Atman and Brahman, the union between the individual soul and the universal soul. And this is yoga. The word yoga means union. And this is actually Sema Taui, the practice of ancient Kemetic yoga. So if you're interested to learn more about the mysteries of the different Neteru, if you're wanting to learn more about ancient Egyptian yoga, about Kemetic yoga, then I'm actually offering every Wednesday, we're doing an initiation into magical, mystical wisdom. Because I feel some things require an initiation, because we're really talking about our personal journey towards enlightenment. So we are basically looking at using our magical abilities for self-healing. And this is going to be every Wednesday. And every Sunday we are meeting up to actually practice physical yoga. So this is the practice of Kundalini yoga, also Kemetic yoga. We're also going to be doing breath work and visualization exercises. And then we are going into a group healing session. It's donation based. You're very welcome to join at any time. I will also post the exact timing so you know when it is happening. But just remember Wednesday and Sunday. So this was your message from Set. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know if you have any other question. Also, please let me know if it resonates or if anything else comes up. And also I'm offering personal readings, so if you would like to have a personal reading, you can also reach out to me on my email address. And I'm wishing you all the best, all of my blessings, all of my love, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye, much love.